RTO Superhero Podcast with me, Angela Connell Richards. And once again with Lauren, who's joining me in a great episode, one of our favourite topics, which is AI. Welcome, Lauren. How are you?
Good, good. Thank you so much for having me again.
Yes, it's awesome. So we were chatting offline about this and about AI and where the focus is going in the future, in particular when it comes to how ASQA are going to audit us, and the different direction that businesses are going in due to AI and that type of ChatGPT and technology, in particular resources and things like that. So tell me what drew you to AI from the beginning, and in particular how it applies in the RTO sector.
Yeah, so I did my first talk on AI in 2020, I think it was 2023 Velk. Was the first public speech that I did about that. Obviously, we've been using AI like GPT, Claude, Bard, Grok, things like that for that same period of time. Watching its its evolution. And then I was at a conference a couple of weeks ago, the VetQI conference, and certainly there was a huge, there was a lot of questions about it, topics about it. And I think when we have VELG this year, the VELG conference, I think we're going to see a lot of speakers talking about that. I think there's going to be a lot of questions. And we've got these new standards in which have a really strong focus on governance. And when I start to look at how RTOs are engaging with AI, how trainers and assessors are engaging with AI, how students are engaging with AI, I just think it's one of those spaces that, is substantially going to change how we work. I homeschool my child, and I had Zach read a book last week, and I said to him, okay, I said, I want you to sit down with ChatGPT. I want you to kind of, create a structure for a book report. I want you to cover X, Y, and Z. And then, you'll need to work with it to refine the report. This is a kid that's got, dyslexia and, hates writing. But, that's a really easy way for him to be able to interact so that he can create a proper report. And effectively, that's how he would create any sort of report or document in the workplace, right?
Yeah.
So, we're now then starting to look at how, certainly we're having to look at how we adapt our assessment tools. So in Aniwaya, we build a lot of our assessments in Accelerate for our clients, and we've just redesigned. I think over the last 2 months, we've had to rebuild something like 700 or 800 assessments in our client systems, because we're now starting to incorporate a live video component. So when we do our validations, we can validate what the student is typing, their written language, in comparison with what they can produce verbally and how they can talk to a topic verbally. Because it's quite stark in a validation when you can see a student who is writing very academically, but when they speak, their oral language would demonstrate an AQF level 2 to 3 levels below what they're talking to, right? Same questions, but the written version and the oral versions just aren't lining up. And that's, for us, that's something that we're having to start to do, because really when it comes down to validation, it boils down to, okay, but if you're going to walk the walk, you've got to talk the talk as well. And I think this is something we're going to start to see. Now, that obviously then starts to bring in things like, well, we had to adapt our assessment instructions to go, a live camera is going to come on and it's going to record you. And please make sure there's nobody in the background, and please make sure you're dressed and professional in your presentation. And, so we then start to think about, from a privacy perspective, what can and can't we do? I know when I was at the conference, I was talking to Accelerate, and they had a client come to them and go, look, can we create a software where we can record in the childcare centres, and it automatically blurs out all of the children's faces and identities. So all AI is impacting all of this, right?
Yeah.
And there is so many different ways in which it affects people. As you know, my little AI Fireflies follows me around to all of my meetings, and in most of them, she's allowed to participate, but certainly in any of my government meetings, I just turn around to them and go, look, I've got no choice. She follows me everywhere. Just kick her out,
Yeah.
But it's a fantastic tool because now when I used to struggle to demonstrate all the quality activities I was doing with clients, now every meeting is recorded, meeting minutes are produced, and then my amazing operations manager, Laura, takes every single one of those meeting notes and copies it into the client's quality register. And so when we're going to ASPA and saying, well, what are the quality activities you're doing? We've got, notes upon notes upon notes upon notes showing that every couple of weeks we're talking about an improvement we're making, or we're implementing a plan, and it's all there and it's so easy. So I think what AI can do is absolutely brilliant in our sector. It certainly makes it easier for me to make far more innovative and enjoyable and engaging assessments and content. But there's a whole other side of it as well. And, we were talking about it before, like you've got an AI product. There's 3 or 4 of these AI compliance hubs out there from, little teeny boppers. No offense to the teeny boppers out there. But, like the photos look like photos of my 18-year-old, who's clearly this little group of boys that have got this great AI knowledge, but now they're saying that they can help you run your whole business, but they've never actually worked in vet before, so there's a lot of stuff out there that RTOs are now going to get kind of, oh, well, you could do this and you can do this, and it's that filtering process again. Our kids growing up nowadays, they don't have to, it's not about whether or not they've got access to the information, it's filtering the information, what's the quality of it, and where does it come from. And I think RTOs have to be just as savvy. What is the tool that I'm looking at? What is it built on? Who is it coming from? Right? And is this actually something that's going to save my business money and give me a return on investment? Or, am I just buying something that I think is going to tick a box when really it's not actually going to make any sort of measurable impact on my business?
Yes. So what do you think are the biggest risks for RTOs when it comes to adopting AI?
So I was having a really interesting conversation with Vanessa from Prickly to Sweet, who's like, she's been in AI for what, 8 or 9 years now. And then I think Kerry Buttery as well is another one that I've had a couple of chats with, and she's very much operating in that AI space too. Where your data goes is something that I've taken from both of them. Like that's definitely something, what data you're being asked to put into the AI and what data you're getting out of it and how it then secures it. Is it being held in an offshore server or an Australian server? Are there any?
That's the biggest question I get asked.
Yeah.
Is like, where is the data
when I refer people to Accelerate, I know they've got they've got 27 different, security controls in their system. But, and I mean, the government's using Microsoft. So Microsoft and Microsoft Copilot and stuff like that, obviously their security and things like that is approved. But there's a lot of others that trying to get that information from them is problematic, So I think that's one thing RTOs need to start to learn to navigate and negotiate. And then the GIGO principle of knowing what the system is built on. And I would be very wary of, people who have built AI systems that don't have RTO knowledge, that can't demonstrate that they've got RTO knowledge, and not just necessarily even RTO knowledge. Like if you're looking at something to run your whole business and your business runs 6 funding contracts, okay, I can write a policy set for your RTO standards, but there is not a single funding contract that doesn't require you to adapt your policies for that funding contract, you know, in terms of finance, in terms of how you capture your data, in terms of your enrollment process, in terms of additional, you know, things that you need to capture from the students or information you need to provide to the students and things like that. So I just think that people need to learn how to have really good conversations with any provider that they're going to look to use any sort of resource from. And I would be very reluctant. And I've seen this advertised on a few of these RTO assessment development things where they go, use this tool and it'll build your resources in 5 minutes. It'll build a compliant contextualized assessment in 5 minutes. And I'm just going to turn around to people and say, it's bullshit. Yeah. I have not seen a system that can write an assessment tool in 5 minutes that's compliant. Most of them are built off of GPT, which is built off of the internet, and the internet is full of non-compliant assessment tools. So, right. You know, if it sounds too good to be true, it's probably too good to be true.
So with Comply Hub, so you've touched on that, the system that we've built, we've actually integrated it with TGA. So it will actually bring in the information for the training products that are on your scope of registration. So it does make a big difference. But, you know, even just, you know, having the unit of competency and downloading that from TGA and putting that into ChatGPT, you're not going to get a good assessment tool because it's just going to follow the legislation or the requirements of the training product. It's not going to go into real world scenarios.
It's going to create an assessment against PC 1.1, then one against PC 1.2. And you know what? You might actually get, like within the next year, you'll probably get maybe a compliant-ish tool. But it's not going to be usable. The assessors are going to hate it. It's going to probably be far more academic than it should be for the AQF level. Like, there's so many nuances to
we still need humans.
Still need humans. Yes. Thank you. Yes. It's a great tool. It's an amazing tool. And I use it every day. And my business would be a lot more cumbersome and more expensive without it. I love it. I think it's amazing what it's going to do, but there has to be that human component behind it. And anyone purchasing a service that uses AI needs to talk to the people that sit behind it. So like, if you're going to go and use Vanessa's AI validator, go and talk to Vanessa and see the knowledge that she has. If they're going to use your AI compliance hub, go and talk to you and your team and see the compliance that sits behind it. I know that, you know, the Learning Resources Group has got a couple of different AI tools that they're bringing out. You know, they've been in this industry and they've actually built good assessment tools. And this is coming from somebody who builds assessment tools. But like, we've always had a lot of respect for the Learning Resources Group because, you know, they don't sell these very cheap assessments, you know, that the contract requires you to, you know, take 7 steps before you get any sort of compliance guarantee out of them and things like that. You know, they genuinely mean well. They genuinely want to provide a really good quality product. And, you know, you need to talk to the people that sit behind it and ask those questions. And the governance standards are very clear. Do your due diligence, know the people that you're working with, know the companies, know the people that sit behind the companies that you want to associate yourself with.
Yeah, definitely. And I think one of the big things around using AI within your, like, what I see is I need it as part of what we do now as a service. However, you still need to have a good understanding of the requirements of the legislation, the standards, the different requirements that you need to have in place for a range of different legislation. And I think, you know, someone trying to develop a compliance system who doesn't actually have any idea about compliance is not going to be able to build a good system. Like I'm now able to build a system without a software developer, and it's fantastic because I have built stuff with software developers before. It was always trying to teach them what you do and how to do it, Whereas now I don't have to do that. I'm doing it straight one-on-one with the AI, and I'm teaching it, and it remembers, which is great. And we're building on that over and over and over again. So it's so much better than trying to work with a software developer who's really tech savvy but just really doesn't understand the topic that you're talking about. And I totally agree with you there, that you really need to have a good understanding of who you're working with and whoever's building these systems. Do they understand what are the requirements when it comes? Because the last thing you want is to turn up in an audit and your auditor picks up some mistake that AI has made, and that makes your RTO non-compliant and put it at risk, particularly if you're getting assessment tools built, and putting your RTO at risk of certificates being cancelled due to not collecting sufficient evidence. Yeah, definitely. So I'm going to move on to another question. For an RTO that hasn't started yet with any AI, what would you recommend would be the first place they should start?
Probably it would depend on the scope of the RTO. So I think for those that are operating in more of the like soft services like business, financial, IT, anything of that sort of space, the first thing that you need to know is that your students are 100% using AI now. And if you're not, I can almost guarantee that your assessments are being fraudulently submitted and you're completely unaware of it. So my first step in an RTO like that would be to get the assessors working with AI very regularly, even if it's just helping them to create their session plans,
contextualizing.
Contextualizing certain things, maybe, getting 3 or 4 assessments together and working with AI to do the validation or something like that, just so that they can start to understand the way that AI writes, the formatting that it prefers, the spelling that it prefers, because that's going to make it much easier for them to start to pick up on that with their students, and also get them to start to think about how they can update their assessments to incorporate more of AI. Like, I know when we're writing policies now, we're writing assessments now, we'll do something like, okay, you need to write a policy, you need to develop and implement a policy on X, right? What you're going to do is you're going to work with AI to develop a template, all right, and develop the draft, and then you're going to go back and forth until you refine it and get it to exactly what it is. You're then going to submit a copy of the chat with your AI and the finalized document, right? That is exactly aligned with what we would expect in the workplace. We're not putting limits on students about working with AI, but we are getting the AI transcript with the student so that we can see what the student's actual knowledge is, right?
Yeah.
And teaching trainers how to like tweak and adapt assessments in that particular format, I think, is incredibly helpful, because we're moving things into how we're doing them in the workplace, which is really what we should be doing in vet anyway. So I think from that context, that's probably the first thing that I would be doing. If we're working more in a trades sort of a college where we're not as big on computers, we've done a lot of stuff in hard copy in the past and stuff like that, I would have to tread a lot more slowly with my trainers. I would start by doing things like just giving them a couple of brief overview sessions on what AI is and what it's capable of. I would then probably go into a little bit of how AI is impacting their industry. So like when we think about things like, brickies and chippies and stuff like that, how much easier it is to create plans nowadays, how easy it is to start to use AI for supporting them with calculations, adapting plans, ready, easy access to like, hey, what is this building code again? Maybe just download the GPT app on their phone and get them to start to think about things like that. I would baby step in a lot more, and I would focus more on how AI is being used in industry. And then from there, once that like initial fear is overcome, I would then start to lockstep them into how they can use it as a trainer and take them through that process. So definitely there would be a different process depending on the type, like the scope of the RTO. And if it was more like community services, health services, and things like that, I would take a similar approach, but I would also really strongly layer that with like AI privacy and needing to understand how how privacy and protection, is different now that we have, AI happening in that particular industry. And I think,
what do you think could be the challenges, like you've just described there, that what you'd recommend and getting the trainers on board? What do you think the challenges will be when it comes to resistance?
Look, we operate in an industry that is just so constantly changing. Like, we've had new standards this year. We've got new training package organizing framework with a completely new structure for our units coming out later on this year, early next year. We have a new AVETMIS system being launched and trialed from next year. Our industry is nothing but like not consistently full of change. And I think that so many staff get change fatigue, right? So for them having to look at this and go, so I'm out of touch again, I've got another thing I've got to learn. I think that's probably going to be the biggest hurdle that RTOs have to comply with. And the same as everything, you've got to take the approach of like, look, yes, we've got more things, like, yes, there's more things we need to consider, but how can we start to use AI to make your jobs easier? So like, as a trainer, AI, like Accelerator's got this tool where it recommends feedback, right? Fantastic tool for trainers, just to like, rather than having to type out
the same
and they
thing.
only ever type out the same thing. Good job, well done. Like, okay. It'll give them a recommended response to the question that correlates to the question, right? So like, let's talk about the ways that AI can actually make it easier for you to develop a session plan, or like, some of these little tools where like you can click on the button and go, give me a summary of this website, or automatically give me 6 questions that I can ask my students about this website, just using a little app and a little button at the top of the screen, right? I think we kind of have to hook them using those sorts of things, because the compliance requirements continue to change and update. And as I said, at the moment, we've had 25,000 qualifications cancelled, right, by ASQA in the last couple of months. They've been cancelled because there was a lack of assessment evidence. There was no evidence of competency. Over the next 5 years, that is not going to be the compliance problem. The compliance problem is not going to be there is not the assessment evidence there. There is going to be assessment evidence there. The question is how fraudulent it's going to be, right? And you're going to see qualifications being cancelled because, they were fraudulently produced out of a company in Manila, right? They were fraudulently produced by a very smart AI tool that literally was designed to pump out 32 versions of the same assessment, all with minor modifications in them, and then automatically upload them into a learner management system, right? This is 100% where we're headed. At the moment, we can cross-check some of those things, as I said, like with video uploads of the students and cross-comparing. 5 years from now, the student will come in, they will record a 5-minute video of themselves, they will upload it into an AI tool, the AI tool will produce a video of them, and you will have video, audio, and all the assessment documentation to prove that a student knows how to achieve their Cert 3 in bricklaying, how to achieve their Cert 3. So for the bad actors out there, right, they are going to have tools that make it very, very difficult to detect that they're doing the wrong thing. And part of the challenge for the regulator and for those of us in industry that want to see our industry do well is going to be figuring out how we catch them.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And that is going to be the big challenge. It's not going to be a matter of going into an RTO, you don't have the assessment evidence, and therefore they are going to have, for the next 3 years, they're going to have all of the written evidence that it looks like they've done the right thing.
Yeah.
Right.
But
5 years from now, they are going to have the video and audio evidence to support it as well. It's going to be quick. It's going to be commercially viable. Right.
Yeah. I don't even think it's that far away.
We really need to think about like how we protect our industry and how we can use AI, right, in the same way. So like those automated, like, a video that turns on and then takes a live screen, live screenshots as we're regularly going through something, validation software whereby when the video is taken, it automatically, runs a software program that sits behind it to make sure that no AI, software is being overwhelmed. But it's going to totally be a cat and mouse game, as it always has been. But that game is going to get faster and faster and faster. So we have to embrace AI so that we can stay ahead of the few bad actors, like the 3% of bad actors in our industry that make the 97% of the good guys,
drag us down.
That drag them down and that make their lives so much harder. And so that we can continue to educate students and go, if you're not getting the skills, don't go and do it. Don't go and do it. Don't pay for that qualification. It'll get taken away from you. And at least now we can turn around and say 25,000 quals, 25,000 people have paid $3,000 to $4,000 for a qualification only to have it taken away from them. Don't be a sap like that. Go and do the qualification, get the actual skills, because that's what's going to lead you into the industry that actually allows you to earn the money to do the thing correctly.
Yeah. And the thing is, you don't want to be turning up to work where you're expected to meet those skills levels that were apparently taught to you. And you're not able to do that because, you're putting liabilities on yourself, but also the RTO when it comes to doing that as well. And I think one of the really important parts and some of the things that you've already touched on, if you haven't been in AI yet, you need to. It's a must. As you said, the students are already using it. The trainers need to be using it so that they understand. And it doesn't matter what industry you're in. But once again, I do agree with you. Look at how your industry can use AI. If they're not, how could they use it? And then integrate that into how you're working with the students. And I love that idea of having the getting the chat back from what prompts are they putting into ChatGPT and what are they getting out and how much do they actually understand. And the big thing is the workforce. This is the workforce now. I'm on ChatGPT all day, every day. Like it's my personal assistant.
You would never ask a staff member if you were like, hey, I need you to write this document, this email, this whatever. You would 100% expect them that you actually don't want them sitting there and doing it all manually. You're like, no, I would rather pay you half an hour to do the job using AI than pay you 3 hours to do the job manually. Like, you and I are business women.
We have a team account, ChatGPT team account, and all of our team have access to ChatGPT.
100%.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah. And I keenly encourage it. We had a new team member join us recently who had never even really used ChatGPT at all. And I actually spent some time training her on how to use it. And she was like, wow, this is just going to be amazing. It's just going to make my work so much easier. And I say to her, go use ChatGPT. Don't spend hours doing it the old way.
Well, use it as a tool. It's not a be all end all solution. It's a tool. And so like, I know I'm encouraging I continually go back to my staff and go, hey, like I've noticed with 5, it is far more prone to telling you what you want to hear as opposed to what you've asked it for. So, like we go back to guys and go, okay, but like I've got to go back to the bot and go, okay, but where did you get that information? Okay, now give me the link. Okay, now actually let's go and do this. And like sometimes I'll like 3 or 4 times in a row, it was like, yes, it goes against the new RTO standard 5.3. I'm like, there is no new standard 5.3, dude. Like, where are you coming up with this shit? And then it would be like, oh, sorry, yes, you are correct. I'm like,
correct.
Stop lying to me. Stop it. I get very upset at it. time.
I've had the same thing. It's like, and we've had, so one of my team members, he uses ChatGPT for our social media, and he's not checking what it's putting out, and it's referencing the wrong standards. I had to go back to him this week and say, hey, it's happened again.
Reminder,
Yeah.
human interaction required.
Yeah, you can't just have it spit out. And I'd rather he just take the standard out and just talk about what is compliance and not put the standard in there. But go back to the bot. Are you sure? Is this the 2025 standards?
Yeah. I mean, and as we said, like at the end of the day, it's about the person that's sitting behind it using the tool, knowing what they need to know, right?
That's right.
Like you and me, if we'd seen that, you automatically go, no. Like, when the bot turns around and says to me, oh, yes, this is against standard 5.3. I'm like, no, it is not, because I know there is no standard 5.3. But, you have to have that person behind it that knows what they're doing. So if you're an RTO and you want to use a compliance tool, an AI compliance tool, that's fine. That's your call. But please go and talk to the person that sits behind it. Talk to them for 5-10 minutes and see if they actually have any knowledge of the standards or any RTO experience whatsoever. That would be my only suggestion.
Yes, yeah. And maybe the way you could test that is go in with some compliance questions about, maybe things, how you're doing your practices now. And so you can identify, is it actually going to help you? And is it going to streamline, or are you just purchasing a software that's really not going to do anything?
We don't currently send our assessors out to do direct observations. We use everything based on third-party reports. Is that fully compliant? And if the RTO bot goes, yes, I'm sure there's absolutely no problems with that, then maybe you need to think twice about whether or not that's the correct tool for
That's
you.
right.
Just a thought.
Well, this has been fantastic. So just to finish off, if you could give RTO leaders one piece of advice when it comes to adopting AI, what would that be?
Use it as a tool, but only with a human operating it and making the final call at the end of the day.
Yeah, because we definitely don't want StarNet to be taking over like the Terminator.
Yeah.
We want to.
And this is why I live in far north Queensland, because we'll be the last ones to be taken over.
A bit like COVID.
I had to jump on a boat before that happened.
Yeah. Well, thank you very much, Lauren, for once again joining me on the RTO Superhero Podcast. It's always wonderful to have a chat with you and talking about our favourite subject, AI. Thank you very much, and I look forward to catching up with you again soon.
Thanks, Ange, and thank you very much for putting out this podcast.
Thank you. Awesome. Great work.